It's mainly because I don't really know quite what I say in this class. I've tried to turn this class into a book like 4 times. And clearly I have 13 weeks of material, but when I put it on paper, it's like 12 pages long.
I think that's probably because you skip a lot of steps summarizing when it's in your own head. Like,
I do. Well, that's why I'm recording. I'm just going to transcript it and see what it looks like.
Yeah, there are things you know in your own head, and so you just kind of gloss over them when you're writing. I do that a lot with my essays and things. Like, I see the steps in my own head, so I don't feel like they need to be spelled out, but that's not the point of an essay. So, Joey, you graduated now?
Tomorrow.
You got any plans for the summer, or you're just going to be gearing up to...
The second thing. Yeah.
What are you guys doing for lunch? What do you guys take home?
We've got a few more trickling. You will need pads today, for sure. We get both sizes, markers, and try to keep getting your brains going.
Both sizes?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's from your parents' generation.
My grandpa, he was like, because he wears like boat shoes all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, those kind of look like mine. I was like, no, you don't. Please don't say that.
The movies that made Barron super popular was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It came out when I was freshman, sophomore. It's like 81, 82, somewhere in there. Long time ago. So what did it do? No, we saw that. I was not allowed to see that movie. I saw it later. Oh, morning. You do grab markers and pads. You'll need them to make your brain go today. Dragging my feet at the start. See if anybody else is taking it. This was actually just. Yeah, well, he was, and I think it was my own game, and the guy was, I mean, yeah. So I did this to block my neck. He had me in a reverse mounted triangle and put enough pressure on me that I would win. Monday.
That's like an older brother, like older little brother dance. Pushing into it.
Just being stubborn with the pass.
You're supposed to say, you should see that, yeah. That's what you're supposed to say.
This is the guy that's just has wrecked me repeatedly for 2 years. I've never gotten him. Not one time.
Just don't quit.
Yeah.
You talking about wrestling or not?
Jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah,
I think my size. You can't even blame that. We weigh the same. But I'm 22 years older than he is, and he's one of the
oh
strongest.
yeah.
But I like the fact that I give him fits every once in a while. We'll roll for 6 minutes and he can't get me. Dude. And he qualified for world sixth in, for a purple belt, 200-pound division. He's arguably the sixth best in the U.S.
You shouldn't be on class.
No, just hanging on. All right, y'all gonna be the starting group. You excited?
Yeah.
We already established that Anna is not excited. So we had a pretty thin group last week, so we're gonna do a slight update going into this week, get your brains going a little bit. So the first idea, is actually right over here behind Mr. Wright, is the word discipline. And we all thought of other words for discipline, other ideas around discipline. What does the word discipline mean? You all gotta think about it and give me a word. If you were here last week, you may have already used your word, but try. When I say discipline, what are the different things that discipline can mean? No one here.
Correct. Correct, like, as in to change, right.
Write it. Use your brains. So, and as you're doing discipline, why am I making y'all write stuff this quarter?
It's a good practice.
It is. And practice is another word for discipline.
Right.
Oh, we didn't get that one last week. Oh, we did. It's up there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not practice like as in doing it over and over to get better. It's practice as in it's something I do. So if you study medicine, you could say that you've gone into the medical discipline, or the discipline of law. It's an area where you're good at stuff. And if you duplicate one, it's okay. But what does discipline mean? Ah, to correct. Right on. If you get a word ready, put it up there. Don't be shy. Or hand it to Mr. Wright and let him put it above his head. So you have to like, stand on his lap. Oh, constructive criticism. Right on. I'll even take just criticism.
I figured it sounded better if I said constructive.
It sounds better.
Keep on saying.
Yeah, there is one unusual personality trait that doesn't even hear negative criticism as negative. They just take it all as constructive. It's called self-negative feedback seeking, and it's a rare personality trait. I don't have it. It hurts my feelings when people say mean things to me. What else? My boss does. So my boss is a bizarre human being. You can say the meanest thing in the world to him, and all he hears is an opportunity to get better. It doesn't even phase it, even a little. It's weird.
The problem is no one can be meaner than me. Just my own feedback.
Well, so. Oh, responsibility, I like it. Realizing that you personally create the outcomes for what you do. Okay? So we talked about discipline as our main topic last week. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it this week. I just want to get your brain going a little bit. And think about the idea that part of discipline is also the idea that you can choose to do some little things every day to make it easier for the big things to turn out. Okay? So like, for example, I put up there, go to bed early, okay, which I didn't do last night, and I regret it. Okay? Go to bed early. Okay? Is that hard to do? Is it a difficult task?
Depends who you ask.
Okay, there we go. So sometimes those little bitty things, doing it once is not hard. It's not a difficult task. What's hard is to have discipline about it and use that to let it change your life. Okay? So now, on another little piece of paper, let's think about some little things you would do that would make you a more disciplined person, more responsible, more corrected, more self-controlled, more structured, having a better plan. What is a small thing you can do every day or almost every day that changes you?
Big deal.
Probably little. I like little because it's a little thing, right? One of the things that I do currently is I try to write every single day. Something. A couple of paragraphs. Yeah, that's just some ideas. What's some little stuff you can do that add up? right, if you got something little, go ahead and throw it up on the wall.
Over there.
Schedule my time to study. Right on. So Jordan Peterson is an awesome lecturer. If you've never listened to him, he's an interesting dude. He's an industrial organizational psychologist and applied clinical psychologist. He's a former lecturer at Harvard, now he's at University of Toronto. He has a speech online, a podcast about schedules, and he says, hey, I tell people you need to have a schedule for your day. And people will answer and go, I don't like a schedule, I don't like all that rigidity, I don't like having to follow that plan. It makes me uncomfortable. He said, well, you're not hearing what I'm telling you then. Don't create a schedule that you want somebody else to make you do. Create a schedule so you get to do what you want to do. Plan out the day that you want and put it on paper, okay? So I like that Anna put that up there, schedule my time. Schedule your time for what you want, not for what you think somebody else wants. Okay? Map it out. I map out my day. I got a busy life, I got 3 kids, I got responsibilities here, I got a big job, I got all kinds of stuff to do, and from noon to 1 o'clock on Monday and Wednesday, I go to jiu-jitsu, period. Okay? That's my spot. Leave it alone. I block it out of my calendar. I take it, okay? Because it's important to me. Make healthier decisions, cool. Pick up your room and keep it neat. So Jordan Peterson also has a lecture about, hey, I want to change the world. Do you? How about you start by picking up your room? Okay? Creates an order close to you, and order close to you will create order in other parts of your life. Discipline breeds discipline, okay? The next thing we talked about last week was excuses next? It is excuses. And we're going to come back to this some more later in the class. You have to make an excuse. So the one I threw out there is, hey, I don't work very hard at certain things because I'm already better than most people at this, okay? You've done it, you know. You've made that excuse before. You've made excuses of, hey, I'm too tired, I'm too busy. Hey, I'm not good at that. So make an excuse. It's important to hear yourself make an excuse. So pick an excuse you've heard yourself make. I have to pick on myself. Did you? Oh, Jared's right one. Put one up that I actually do, and I get mad at myself when I do it. See what Jared gets first. Oh, it's not worth the effort. It's too small. It's something trivial. It's not a big deal, right? Not that important. Right on. So here's a specific one. Hey, I'm 22 years older than John. John's the dude that gave me the black eye this week. When we're about to do a training exercise in jiu-jitsu, I will actually I will say out loud to other people, hey man, it's okay if I can't beat him. I'm 22 years older than he is. But what did I just do to myself when I say that? I don't plan to win. I don't plan to push myself hard. I don't plan to give it 110%. On Monday, I didn't do that. I got a black eye for it. That's okay. I got better. All right.
You can say that's a cool story next time.
Oh. I'll do it tomorrow. Procrastination, right on. I'd rather not stress myself out. Hey, I just don't want to take all that on right now. Okay?
I feel very accused right now.
There you go. Why do you think it's important to go ahead and verbalize your excuses and call them excuses?
See how much you excuse yourself from.
There you go. To quantify, how much am I just giving myself a free pass? How much am I just giving myself an incorrect message? Okay. Any other excuses before we do the next little one and move into this week's lesson? Oh yeah, I like toys. Very cool ones. Oh, I got some higher priorities. I got other stuff that's more important right now. When we use that one, what are we really saying? Usually, when we're using it as an excuse.
Somebody else will take care of it.
Hey, maybe that.
You don't want to do it.
I just don't want to do it. Because are we really working on the higher priority, or are we just saying it so we don't have to work on the lower one either?
Just saying.
I think it's that. Okay, and then the final idea we brought up last week, I'm just gonna bring out as an idea. Did we put it on the wall? Oh yeah, so it's the corner. Pick something you're gonna intentionally fail at. Well, Jim, that sounds like a weird thing to say. Okay, psychologically, you actually can't learn anything if you don't do something you can't do. You follow that? If you only do things you can do, you'll never be more than what you are. Awesome quote. Shifu, Kung Fu Panda 2. Okay? If you don't only do what you can do. See what?
Those movies are winners.
They are. But they are full of awesome truths. And one awesome truth is, if you only do things you can already do, you actually don't learn anything, right? So you've got to pick stuff to go try that you can't do yet. And that means you have to run the risk of failure, okay? So I put up there, I'm going to choke Sam, because the prior week, Sam is the one who beat me up, okay? This week it's John. They're taking turns. I did not successfully choke Sam this week. I didn't get there. Who said they were going to do a muscle up? Muscle ups, man, it hurts my... Rowdy did. Hurts my elbows just thinking about doing a muscle up. I can't do it. Got to work on it. Be grateful for tough times. Focus on dance. That was Morgan Wrigley's last week. I had a speaking engagement I want to try to get into. So just go ahead and let that one sit in the back of your brain. Doing hard things, something that you're going to work on that's hard to get to. And that's where we'll wrap up toward the end of the day today and do something similar. All right, let's get this class going. Somebody find Galatians 6:9. Somebody else find Hebrews 11:25. All right, who's got Galatians 6:9? And go.
Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give it up.
Okay, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Okay? It's one of the first things written in the New Testament, is the book of Galatians. And Paul lays out an idea. Don't get tired of doing good, because eventually you'll reap. We have figures of speech in the U.S. What you reap is what you will, what you sow is what you will reap, right? So what you put out there is what you're going to get back. So if you put mainly excuses out there, what are you going to get back?
Nothing.
Yeah. If you put little things out there that are positive, what are you going to get back? A little bigger things, okay? And he talks about not growing weary. Jesus has the parable of the sower. We've got the idea over and over again in the Bible that when you do little stuff, it picks your direction. Okay? Today's class is officially on choices. Every choice you make is a goal. Okay? We started the class this quarter wrestling with the idea of the word goal. The word goal bothers people for some reason in the church. It sounds like we're setting up something that's very selfish. It's not correct. I'll go ahead and read the last verse of the day and the one that I used actually to structure the class the very first time I taught it. Philippians 3:13 and 14 says, "Brothers, I do not consider that I have made it my own, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus." So even Paul uses the idea of goal setting in order to accomplish salvation. He forgets what's behind it. It doesn't matter. He presses on. He works on what he should to get to the goal. And in this class, we said God gave us 3 big goals already, right? And those 3 big goals were, remember? Number 1, obey him. Number 2, has 2 parts, take care of your neighbor. And taking care of the neighbor means 2 different things. What were those 2 things? Take care of your neighbor by telling them about? Oh, you can do it, even though it's morning time. So how do you take care of your neighbor the first way? Who do you need to tell them about? What do you need to tell them about?
Jesus.
There you go, Jesus. And the second way you take care of your neighbor is by taking care of their what? What their physical needs, right? So that's the three biggies. God lays it out for us. Jesus says it over and over again. It's simple. Again. Okay? But we set goals. Every time you make a little decision, you set a goal already. Okay? Now, does it sound funny if I say, hey, last night, because I chose to read and really fart around, my goal today was to be tired? Was that my goal? It was my goal. Okay? It wasn't a very smart goal, but that was my goal. Okay? Every time you make a little decision, you take one step in a certain direction. And that starts you on the path going somewhere. Okay? The thing about goal setting is this. It's no more complicated than this. If you're just intentional about that first step, the second step's already pointed the right way. If you're unintentional about the first step, kind of like I was last night, your first step's going in the wrong direction. And now you've got to think, oh, how do I fix this? I did something that was unintentional. I did something that was excuse-based. All right, who found Hebrews 11? Hebrews 11:25.
Choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin.
Okay, so Moses decided not to stay in Pharaoh's house. What was Moses' job when he was still living in Pharaoh's house? Let's wrap our brains around this. Sometimes the adults do a bad job of this, and I think y'all can do a better job of it. What was Moses' job when he lived in Pharaoh's house?
To be rich.
To be really rich. What else was his job? I mean, what is he?
He's the second prince.
Yeah, he's the second prince. He's one chariot wreck away from being king of Egypt. Okay? Let's understand what that is. What kind of life is that?
Rich, powerful, well-educated.
Right. So very likely, from what we know of the ancient civilizations, Moses, by the time he was 40, which is when he killed the Egyptian, probably already spoke between 6 and 10 languages. He's the fourth or fifth richest person on the planet, being second and third in line for the throne in Egypt. Has anything he wants, eats anything he wants, lives in a palace. All he does all day is get trained how to be a king and enjoy being a king in the richest country in the world. All right, it's a pretty nice gig, right? He gave that up to be an Israelite. Okay. So there's a little different synonym for discipline we're going to get to today. What would you call that when Moses gives up something today to get something tomorrow?
Investment.
Investment's a good word. Write it down. We're going to put it on the wall of discipline. What's another word for that? If you want to be a winner and you want to get better, it requires see, the word's probably in your head. It just doesn't match up for a modern word. You hear it all the time. How about sacrifice? Easy said. You just wouldn't say it loud. You whisper it. Write sacrifice down. Because it looks to me like God uses the word sacrifice in the same context that he uses the word discipline a lot. Okay? And we have the idea, there's a tough idea in the world. You buy your future, or you sell it. Have you ever heard anybody use this analogy before? But, so, one of Tori's goals is to get a starting position on the basketball team next year, right? Is that going to come free?
Thank you.
It's going to take a crazy amount of work. Are you going to have to give up something today, have it cost you something today, to buy that for tomorrow? If you're not focused, could you accidentally sell your future in order to buy something today? Yeah. So last night, I sold my energy on Sunday, and I spent it on Saturday night. Does that make any sense? When you make individual choices, that's how goal setting works. Okay. Starting to be intentional about it is tough. Okay? So one or two more verses here. And then we're going to start using that word a lot. So taking that first step in the right direction is not free. It costs you something. We have to be responsible for ourselves. Somebody find Romans 14:12. I think that's the right one. Romans 14:12. And while somebody's finding that, I'm going to point out a couple of people you know in the Old Testament. Abraham. When God came to Abraham, what's the first thing God told Abraham to do? Abraham, get up and
Go into the land that I will show you.
go to a land I'll show you. Okay? Did Abraham know where he was going exactly? Did Abraham know that he was going to become the father of a great nation when he did that? Now, all he knew is going to that land is the first step in the right direction. Okay? So he went. He got up and he went by faith. How about Joseph? What was Joseph known for? What's the very first thing we know Joseph for? You did flannel graphs when you were a little kid, sticking flannel on a wall. What does Joseph have that his brothers don't?
His father's love.
His father's love, represented by a
Coat of many colors.
colorful coat. Right on. Okay? He gets sold into slavery. He goes, has to work hard. He rises to prominence in Potiphar's house. Okay? And Potiphar's wife decides that he is hot and hits on him. He's got a choice, right? He can sell his future to have another positive there in that household. And think about what this is. He's the head slave in a household where the father of the house is gone all the time and the woman of the house likes him. What are the odds of him getting caught for years? Low. Super low. 0. But he says, no, I'm not going to potentially sell my future and take the risk of doing this today. I'm going to do the right thing today, and I'm going to risk that it can be painful because my future is more important. God's more important. Okay? He made decision after decision like that, and at the end of the day, he saved an entire nation from starvation. You ever thought about that's what he did? I mean, we're not talking about just his brothers are the ones that were under the famine. Everybody in Egypt, a whole nation would have collapsed. Okay? He showed them how to store food. He fed an entire country. That's the future he would have put at risk if he spent his day-to-day the wrong way. Okay?
It's in perspective why the Pharaoh gave him all the power. I didn't think about that.
Pharaoh didn't have an answer. So Romans 14:12, what does that say? Did I pick the right one? And go.
So then each of us will give an account of himself to God.
There we go. Each of us is going to give an account of himself to God. You're going to give answers about how did you spend your day? Did you spend today to buy a better tomorrow? Or did you sell your tomorrow to buy a better today? Which one did you do? Okay? Sacrifice. Let's think about how animal sacrifice was used in the Old Testament. Why were people required to do sacrifices? What did a sacrifice do for people in the Old Testament? Y'all know this. What's the purpose of a sacrifice?
It showed that you were willing to give something up.
So that's the ultimate. So hold on to that one. Come back to that one. So the surface one we learn. If we ask an adult out there, what does the blood of the sacrifice do for you individually?
Washes me.
It does.
Make sure I'm not held accountable for all the
There we go.
things.
That's a good way to say it. Make sure that I'm not held accountable for the bad things that I've done. The blood buys me time.
Something died so I could live.
Something died so I could live. In the Old Testament, it's temporary, but it points forward to Christ's ultimate sacrifice that washes us permanently. But the real big lesson God is trying to teach the people in the Old Testament, you need the blood to cover your sin because you sin and you can't pay for it, and I will pay for it. But the real lesson I'm trying to teach you is I'll give up something valuable to me to get something more valuable to me. Right? Tori is onto something here. Sometimes when we talk about doing better goal setting and giving things up in our life to have a better life, all we think about is giving up the bad stuff. Right? You're supposed to give the bad stuff up anyway. Part of what God is trying to teach us with animal sacrifice is sometimes to get the thing you really want, you've got to give up another thing that you want. Sometimes to get the thing that's really good, you have to give up something else that's also really good. All right? And sometimes to get the thing that's really, really, really good, you've got to give up another thing that's really, really, really good that you really, really, really want, but you can't have them both. Okay? Let's think about some specifics, a couple of sacrifice moments, and then we are going to write down stuff you're going to sacrifice. What is acceptable to sacrifice in the Old Testament? Think about Cain and Abel. What is acceptable as a sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice is it supposed to be? The best of your flock, right? When the children of Israel were supposed to pick the Passover lamb, what kind of lamb did it have to be? How old?
Year old.
Exactly a year old. What did it have to look like? Perfect and spotless. Perfect in every way. Only your very best lamb will count. Remember, that's what you have to give up to get what you really want. So in order to get something great, you have to give your best. You ever heard that before? Did you ever think about the idea that that's what God's trying to teach us with animal sacrifice? Hey, go out there and do your best. So, and I'm guilty of it too. So I coach soccer. And I'm guilty of telling the girls on my team, hey, just go do your best. Well, it's not just go do your best. Absolutely go do your best. Go give up the best that you are to get the best you could get. Okay? Give it up. Put it away. David, when he stops the angel of the Lord at the threshing floor of Araunah, he says, I will sacrifice to God here. And he tells Araunah, I will buy your oxen, I will buy the sledges, and I will sacrifice them here to God to stop God. And Araunah says, no, O king, you are the king. I will give you my oxen and give you my wood. What is David answering?
I don't know how this works.
That's not how this works. What does David say? I will not sacrifice to God something that costs me nothing. I can only sacrifice something that costs me something. So as you think about your goal setting, your intentional goal setting, don't only think about giving up things you shouldn't be doing anyway. Think about stuff that's perfectly okay to do that you're choosing to give up in order to get the bigger goal. Right? Absolutely. Is it perfectly okay for Tori to go play volleyball every night all summer? Well, it's because you know what you want to go do. Would it be okay? Would God be unhappy with that? Would other people be unhappy with that? Is it going to get you closer to your starting position in basketball? That's the problem. There's nothing wrong with volleyball. Is it okay if Tori wants to go hang out with Anna all the time this summer? Just spend a lot of really good quality Christian sisterhood time together. Anna's not that good at basketball. She's not going to get you closer to your start. Okay? She's great and all, but you're going to have to give up a potential good to get the thing that's even better. Okay? Somebody write on 3 separate pieces of paper the word bad, the word good, and the word great. 3 separate ones.
What size?
The big one.
Okay.
Bad, good, and great. 3 separate pieces of paper. All right, a couple more things here. And you always have to ask the question, what are your goals worth to you? So in the Old Testament, the children of Israel had to give up an awesome yearly lamb. What does your most perfect 1-year-old lamb grow up to be?
Great breeder.
A great breeder. You're missing out on an opportunity. It's going to turn out to be your most awesome ewe later. It's going to be a bigger lamb with more meat, potential of making more baby lambs, all sorts of positives. You're giving up all sorts of positive stuff by killing this 1-year-old perfect lamb. Wow. That's the kind of message God wants us to hear. The rich young ruler comes to Jesus and says, I want to follow you. Jesus says, obey the Lord, keep his commandments. Love your neighbor as yourself. Gives him stuff to do. Lord, all these commands I have kept since my youth. So what does Jesus tell him?
Sell your stuff.
Sell your stuff. Go give up the one thing that's most important to you now so you can get the one thing that's even more important. Jesus tells a parable about a man who, when he was passing through a field, he finds a pearl of great price as a treasure. He buries it back in the field. He goes and sells everything he owns to buy the field. So over and over again in the Bible, it gives us the idea that sometimes you have to sacrifice something that's good and you like it to get something that's even better. Okay? So, try to do a visual here. Let me do it over here. We're gonna have stickers everywhere by the end of this quarter. How many of you want to grow up and be a bad person when you grow up? Nobody says that. What kind of person do you want to be? I want to be a great person, right? I don't want to be a bad person. If these are my only two choices, it's pretty easy, right? Well, the biggest enemy of being great is not the temptation of being bad. It's the temptation to just be good enough. That's good enough. Okay? This is tough for most people. Most people in the world, they struggle with the idea of it's okay to strive for excellence in some stuff. It's okay. So, now you're going to pick something that you sacrifice. It's good. It's okay to do it. It's not a bad thing. It's not an excuse, but it's a discipline idea. So I'll give you an example as you think. What are you going to sacrifice to get something bigger you're trying to get? Okay? So several years ago, I went back to school, decided to earn my PhD while working full-time and being a father and all kinds of other stuff. I love coaching youth soccer. Love it. It's one of my favorite things in the world to spend time out on the field with the girls. I didn't get to do that one season, so I gave up coaching soccer. We went on vacation, and I didn't go out in Ireland and walk around and see things. I sat in the hotel room and did homework. Is it okay to go see Ireland with my family? Absolutely. Is it a good thing to be a coach to young girls? Absolutely. Couldn't afford those and the great thing I was trying to do. I had to give up something that was good to get to the thing that was great. And it was a painful sacrifice. We've got friends we used to be close with, we're not close with anymore. I didn't watch TV. I had to even ask my wife, who is running for president? Because I had not watched TV in so long. Okay? I gave up all kinds of stuff to make that happen. What is something that's okay to do that you find yourself doing a bunch of time on? It's not sinful. It's not negative. It's perfectly happy. It's okay that you are willing to give up to get to something bigger, to get to something you put on the wall. So think about that. I don't remember who put this one up here. Save up $3,000 by the end of the summer. It's $30 a day. Sounds a lot easier to attain when you break it down into a smaller piece, right? So somebody said, I'm going to choose not to spend $30 a day so I can get to that number. Okay? So what is a good thing in your life you're going to sacrifice to get to a great thing in your life? Anybody have one you're willing to share yet?
Time with friends.
Here we go. That's a tough one too. Because here's the thing, time with friends is a really good thing, and it's an important thing. But short term, you may have to give that up. Yeah, stick it over there with the good, with the great, good, bad. So put it next to good. There we go. Maybe I'll move bad now. Here, I'll put bad farther down so it doesn't seem distracting. Anybody else have something you can sacrifice?
Ours with the small one.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
That's what it
So I've talked about it a lot in this class. I'm trying to get to a certain place in jiu-jitsu this year, so one of the things I'm giving up is comfort. My joints hurt all the time. I don't care. I want my second strap on my purple belt.
I say that black eye shows a lot of commitment.
My ankles hurt, my elbows hurt. I should probably actually take a little time off and recover. But I won't. Sleeping late every day. So Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, motivational speaker, chooses to get up at 4:45 every day. It's his little thing, but it falls in this category. Is there anything wrong with sleeping till 5? No. But in his words, lots of people get up at 5. If I get up at 4:45, I'm the first one up in my time zone in most cases. Unless somebody's working nights, I'm the first guy up, which means I've got to jump on everyone. He's psycho.
Early bird doesn't get killed.
Or doesn't get killed. Anybody else? You got a sacrifice? What about the great thing you're trying to get to? You know, I've already put some awesome ones up here. Think about how some choices work. If I choose to stay up too late tonight, I've chosen to be tired tomorrow. If I choose not to study today, I've chosen to fail my test tomorrow. If I choose to be rude to somebody today, I've chosen to be friendless tomorrow. Eating bad food. Oh yeah, I could have put that one up there too.
So are we supposed to put the grades up there?
Sure, if you've got a grade, put a grade up there so we can get it in perspective. Like I've decided I'm not allowed to have pasta or bread because I don't know how to have a little pasta or a little bread. If I have any bread, I have a lot of bread. I have a problem. I have a bread problem. Pasta bread bowl.
Yeah. Get your spaghetti and meatballs in a bread bowl.
Oh, I have a, it is what it is. If I will give up bread completely, it's not that difficult. If I try to eat a little, it's a ridiculous slippery slope. I'm just eating loaves of Wonder Bread on the couch. It's terrible. That's not good for me.
Why did you choose Wonder Bread?
It's delicious.
Of all the other breads.
Wonder kebabs. Oh, Anna's got one. She's not putting it up there.
This is a good one.
Right on. Ah, recreational screen time. I was wondering if anybody would put it up there. Is there anything wrong with spending some time connecting with other humans on social media? No, absolutely not. Some people do a great job of using social media as a way to encourage other people. Absolutely. Okay. The ones that do, though, have some really cool rules about it for themselves. They've got lots of these that they've set up for their screen time. I only post these kinds of posts about these kind of things. I only do it this way. I only comment in this fashion. Okay? The trouble is, some of us know things about ourselves that once you start doing recreational screen time, it's like me with the bread. You don't stop. You just fall into a giant black hole of time consumption, right? Cool. That's a good one to throw up there. See, back in my day, we only had one screen option, and man, how old was I when even VHS became a thing? I guess I was a junior in high school, sophomore in high school, and VHS got affordable enough. Anybody had one that I knew? So when I was a freshman in high school, if it wasn't currently on Rabbit Ears, you couldn't watch it. All right, thanks for your attention. Next week, we're going to start the week by making excuses for each other. We're going to do that exercise some more.
That's all right, we don't need to. It's not that important.
Hope we're stretching your brain. And I am trying to find a personality test we can actually do during class. That you learn something about yourselves. Oh,
Favorite one.
Brucey has cool chunky sandals.
Yeah, give me a little height. It's nice.
All the 5 hours.
Oh, I didn't get your hand up. I'm a bad teacher. Let's leave it here.